What's up, Ravens fans? The draft is just a couple of weeks away, and there's lots of questions in the mailbag about what the Ravens are going to do. Obviously, lots of questions about the topic that everyone likes to discuss, and that's wide receiver.
How many questions have we answered about this?
A million. Over the past several years, a million of these. So what's one more? We'll start with this one from Patrick Thurman. Patrick wants to know, is it too much to expect a rookie to be a number one wide receiver, especially if he's not drafted in the first 2 rounds?
Yes, I think that the hope for this number one wide receiver, just give it up. Give up the search, give up the hope. I hate to break it to you, but it's not happening this year. Look, I think that it's hard to find that true number one guy like a AJ Green or Odell Beckham, even if you're drafting in the first 10 picks or so. It's hard for these rookie wide receivers to land in the NFL and immediately pop and become that huge kind of impact player. Now, if the Ravens don't draft one in the first 2 rounds, I think it's even harder. Could they draft one and they develop into that kind of guy? Yes, but it often takes time. I think that most likely the leading wide receiver next year in terms of catches will probably be the guy who it was last year, Willie Snead. It's just the NFL is a tough game for rookie wide receivers to adapt to. It takes time. And so I think that placing expectations on this guy, especially in a run-first offense that we expect, is a little too much to ask for. It's gonna take a little bit of time.
Now, I will say, though, if the Ravens draft a receiver at number 22, the expectation there is that ultimately, whether it's this year or next year or in 3 years, that he would ultimately be that number one receiver.
Yes, but I think that the whole number one wide receiver thing is a little too overblown. The Ravens right now, I don't think are gonna have that kind of stud guy. They're gonna have a lot of number 2 guys. And you put complementary pieces together, and it doesn't matter if they're a number 1 or number 2 or number 3. They just have to be pieces that fit together, and I think that's what the Ravens are striving to do.
It's going to be kind of a by-committee approach at receiver. I totally agree with that. All right, let's keep the questions moving here. This question comes from Paul Stokes, and Paul wants to know, do you still think that the Ravens will prioritize wide receiver even after the signing of Seth Roberts? Or do you think this suggests edge rusher or interior offensive line? Will they now become the priority? Well, I still think that receiver's a need. I don't think that the addition of Seth Roberts makes the Ravens say, all right, we don't need to add a wide receiver in this year's draft. The Ravens
I wasn't saying that with the previous question.
I agree.
You still need playmakers.
Yeah, the Ravens still need playmakers. I still think the Ravens are going to draft at least probably 2 wide receivers in this year's draft. And I could see that happening in the first round and in the third round. And if they maybe somehow find their way into the second round, I could see that happening as well. So, look, I think when the Ravens get on the clock in the first round, like we've said a million times, my hunch is that they'll look to move back. I think there's a kind of a clump of guys there. Now, who do they ultimately pick? I think it could be receiver in the first round. I do think it could be interior offensive line if one of these mauling guards is there or somebody they feel like could be a plug-and-play center is an option. They need pass rushers too. Edge rusher. Cleveland Farrell, a guy from Clemson, is somebody who I think could be in that mix if he's there at 22 or maybe even a little bit later. So, look, the Ravens are going to keep adding receivers. The search and the additions of those guys is not done yet just because they added Seth Roberts.
Totally agree.
All right, let's finish things up here with a question from Brett Yates. Different question. We're not talking receivers for this one.
Okay.
If Devin Bush is available, do the Ravens draft him?
Yeah, I think that there's certainly a possibility for that. I mean, Eric DeCosta already said that he expects Devin Bush and Devin White, the LSU linebacker, to probably be gone before number 22. So that tells me if you were there at 22, then he would view that as a bargain. It seems every year there's a couple of defensive guys who slide down the board because offense is so sexy, right? Last year was Derwin James, and the Ravens had an opportunity to take him, ended up passing on that opportunity. This year, if Devin Bush were to slide down the board and get to number 22, would they pull the trigger on him? Maybe. I mean, we're talking about a Michigan inside linebacker, position of need, and at Jim Harbaugh's school.
Right.
So those are 2 good factors. I mean, Devin Bush is a really good player, flies around to the football, a leader. I think that he would be a good fit here in Baltimore. But I anticipate the Ravens to probably address inside linebacker more in those middle rounds, 3rd, 4th round.
And I think he probably will be gone. But like you said, I think also the position will dictate which players fall. Safety, inside linebacker, often not as sexy. Interior offensive line. Some of those positions, the top players can fall down the board a little bit just by the nature of the position that they play. So look, we love hearing from you guys every single week. Don't stop the questions, even the receiver questions. We'll keep answering those. Send your questions every single week using the hashtag RavensMailbag. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.